for joining today's BIM 360 Hackathon Day 2 webinar. Today, we will be talking about the introduction to BIM 360 and Forge APIs. My name is Mikako Harada. I'm AEC Technical Lead and Americas Manager, and from the Developer Technical Services, which does the support for Alien as well as Forge partner development team. And behind the scenes, we have my colleague, Augusto Goncalves, and Tom Crotta, and Bill. And Bill, thank you very much for taking care of backend. And then Augusto has done a lot of hard work for this BIM 360 stores, and he is the person who knows most when it comes to the publishing stores. So he will be here as well. So if you have any questions around that, FYI. Okay, so yesterday, Jim Quancy, our director, talked about more from the business side together with Tom. And they showed you what is possible, what you can do, and what kind of applications we see from our partners, as well as some of our in-house first set of apps that Augusto and Michael Beast has created. So today we are going back to a little bit more basics for the people who are starting to develop with the BIM 360. So one thing I commonly get as a question is like relationship between BIM 360 family product and the Forge APIs. This seems to be the one of the the most complicated parts, more than the Forge API itself. So I would like to use this opportunity to go back to explain these basic things first. So I'll go through from the BIM 360 and the family product overview, followed by docs and Forge APIs. There is no such a thing as like a docs API, because the docs is a good example of using a Forge internally. And I would like to explain what it means by giving an overview, followed by the very quick the explanation of the Forge APIs, which from starting tomorrow, the Augusto and then other team members will be explaining a little bit more detail. So today will be a big picture discussions, and from tomorrow you will go into more details. So with that background, with the agenda, let me go to next section. So BIM 360 docs and family product. So before we talk about docs and then other APIs, I would like to clarify the current situations of the BIM 360, because as Jim was explaining yesterday, we've been continuously working on BIM, and we are trying to have more unified BIM experience. And since these are cloud-based web services, you see changes constantly. So it actually makes it a little harder to understand where we are at each state in time. So let me go back and then explain this one as of today. So as many of you are already aware, we have the collection of BIM 360 family web services product, such as BIM 360 Team, Glue, Layout, Docs, Field, Plan, and recently the Building Ops was branded as BIM 360 Ops, and it also joined the BIM 360 family officially. So BIM 360 Team was rebranding from A360, which happened around a year ago. And this one has right now, this one has very similar features, Personal A360. Personal have A360, but it has also a special features for Revit design comparison and things like that. And we also have a BIM 360 Glue, which is like coordinations, crash coordinations, and also have a layout which is built on top of Glue. We also have recently, or last year, we released this docs, and this one is one main things that we'll be talking about today. And this will be the document management. We also have a BIM 360 field. This is for the quality and checklist and quality, the issues on the managing at the field, construction field. And then we have a plan. Plan is for short-term the planning, and then Ops is for the facility management. So in addition to that, we also have one layer called account level, which spans from GURU to plan in this picture. So what it does is that it creates a project. We use this one to create a project, the main members and companies, and then also controls which services such as docs, GURU, and field you want to activate in case you are subscribing multiple BIM 360 product. So when we talk about this Forge APIs, when you talk with some people who are less technical, they probably mix Forge and BIM 360 and they don't go into much details. But right now, if we talk about Forge API access, only team and docs are part of the Forge. So GURU and field, and as well as layout and plan and ops, they are not part of the Forge. GURU and field has its own API. It has a quite comprehensive APIs, but it's not a part of the GURU, the Forge. So be aware when we are talking about the Forge API and the Forge API access to BIM 360, we are explicitly talking about docs and team. And in addition, account level is also a part of the Forge API. It's also known as BIM 360 API. So this is another, it might be another factor that sometimes this BIM 360 API naming itself might be a little bit confusing because it sounds like it covers everything, but the BIM 360 API means it's account level. For that part, even if you have a GURU and field, you can access to account level API for that portion. That means that account level management. So we always talk about docs and why. And the reason is that we are regarding these docs as our depository for the data at the center. And once we have our data at the center, we'll be able to access from various products, including Autodesk products, as well as your third-party applications. So for the future view, we are hoping that the whole BIM 360 experience will be seamless and unified form. So as a starting point, you probably start seeing a little bit of feeling like this because recently we changed the UI design of the docs because we are expecting to have a next generation GURU and next generation field on top of the docs. So eventually, everything will be built on top of docs. So the big picture will be kind of like this. And then in a way that docs will be probably become a little bit more stepping out from the mainstream because the main feature will be like a GURU crash features or field, the quality management features. And then in future, probably next year or beyond, we are expecting to have other part, for instance, like a plan, and then a team will be joining this one as well. In the meantime, we may see small changes here and there, but it might be a little bit confusing, but this is a big picture. And then I hope that explaining this will help you to kind of plan for future and then also understand whenever you see the changes happening on top of docs. So what's coming? Yesterday, Jim also briefly mentioned about next generation field and group. So field management is right now on a beta stage. You can, if you have a docs and then account access, you can actually start playing with it too. So definitely it's coming. And I already mentioned that yesterday too, but if you'd like to give it a try, and if you have access to a main account, you can try to create a new project and choose a field. If you, at that point, you will be asked to choose either beta, new version with beta, or classic field. So you can manage that. You cannot access both. So you have to choose one from either classic or new ones. And same thing are expected to happen for next generation group, which we'll be calling as a model coordination. So with this new coordination module, we will start seeing clashes, much like group, but it will have a little more, not just the copying group, but it has more the additional features which helps you to manage clash result and things like that. And then also inside, last year at the AU, Amar was talking about the AI side. I think I wanted to say IQ, but looks like I made a mistake as all. But this is about machine learning and risk management and things like that. This is also, I heard that it's coming as a beta very soon. So just FYI, keep your antenna out for anything new. Unfortunately, in the original release, we are not expecting API to come immediately, which is kind of reasonable. We want to have product side more, stabilized. But people are always keeping API in mind. So we are hoping that once they are ready, we can access to the APIs. So that was about the BIM 360 product family overview. So next, let's look at the BIM 360 docs and then APIs as a big pictures. So API overview. So as I was telling briefly at the beginning, the BIM 360 docs, we view it as an example of Autodesk using Forge API internally. What it means is that, for instance, if you see, if you are familiar with the BIM 360 product, you can see authentications, for instance. Like when you are signing in, you see the signing page. That's the authentication part. And sorry. And then the next one is BIM 360 API account HQ management. So account level API is called BIM 360 API. This is the one that in a UI you switch to your account management, the account admin page. This one is fully exposed through the APIs. So this is available. And then data management API. So once you have a project, once you have account, the account may have multiple projects, and accessing the project and then further to each folders and each contents, or could be nested folders. Those are done by data management APIs. So up to you get to specific files, and then also including like file download, upload, and getting thumbnails and the URL for the viewer, which is a special the string to call viewer. Those are the ones you will use data management APIs. So up to there, it's about storing files in locations. So once you get to a specific files, then it's about models. You may want to use a viewer to view a model. you can also use so-called model derivative API. You can think of model derivative API as similar to what the viewer can do, but without the UI. So for instance, you can retrieve properties of a model, or you can retrieve geometry data. So those are the things you can do using derivative APIs. Another thing you can do with derivative APIs will be like translating one file format to another. So for instance, from IFC to, from Revit to IFC. And today, we don't have an API yet, but it's on the pipeline. We are waiting for issues API. So if you have a BIM 360 Docs API, you see issues on top of a document, and then soon we'll have the field management too, where we expect we have issues. So issues API is another highly demanded features of the APIs. So this one is, we are hoping to have it before around AU time. The Tomel Gallon, who is API product manager, who is pushing very hard on this feature as well. So we talked about docs. So how about the BIM 360 team? So basically, BIM 360 team is using the same underlying the component. For instance, like authentication and data management API, model derivative API, and then viewer. So you probably see more or less similar things. And the things which doesn't have in a team is that the team is not a part of the account management system we are using. So the difference between team and docs are that the docs is based on BIM 360, designed for the enterprise customer as an owner, while team and then also A360, they are more derived from the individual user or smaller team members. So this part is a little bit different, but as Jim was talking about it yesterday, we are expecting that this feature will be a part of docs as well. So now we talked about the big pictures. So let's look at the 4G API. As mentioned, we have this 4G APIs in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 areas. So let's take a look from the top one by one. So authentication method for BIM 360. So tomorrow, Augusto is expected to talk about the data management and authentication more details. So but just quickly to emphasizing a difference between BIM 360 and then A360 and then CHIM. So the BIM 360 docs is using OAuth2, which is the same for other hubs. And there are two types. One is 2-legged and 3-legged. So 2-legged means that it involves two parties. One is the Autodesk and then applications. And this is designed more for the business to business or application context. So for instance, if your company or if your customer's company want to integrate system at company level, instead of, as opposed to user level, individual user level, then we'll use these integrations. So for instance, ERP and then SharePoint, other system, company may choose to integrate in a backend. And once you have that, then individual user comes into play. In that context, we'll use the 3-legged. In addition to application and Autodesk, we have now the user plays into this authentication processes. So this is called the 3-legged. So for instance, many of you are probably familiar with, like Facebook and Google and sign-in processes. This is actually the commonly used method. It's not special for Autodesk. So this, the flow, authentication flow is very common thing. So any of you who are already in web services development, you should be familiar with this concept. So 3 legs, you will see a redirect to, in case of Autodesk, it goes to account.autodesk.com, and then you sign in users. So next one is account admin APIs, as known as BIM 360 API. So this one, you can access through the admin.b360.autodesk.com. And it has control over project. You can create, modify, and then archive a project. And you can also add project members and then companies. It also have a page like analytics. You can see, how many projects you have, or also your contract information as well. And then last tab is for a setting. So this one is probably the ones you'll probably start seeing if you want to use the API. So the last tab setting has a tab called a second layer of tab called the apps and then integrations. So this is the ones you can control API access. So as the BIM 360 is typically owned by enterprise customers, and possibly, the small, but still the company level as opposed to individual user usage. So usually this API access is controlled by the account owner. So if you are account owner, or if you get a request from your user or your employee to access APIs, you have to do this activation in order for you to give access to your team members to the API, to the docs. So you go to the setting, and you go to the apps and integration tab, and then you will see app integration, the buttons, and there you can add the integrations. For instance, it looks like this. Select the access. It gives a control in two places. One is BIM 360 account administration, and another one is BIM 360 docs. And you can also, then once you get into the page, on the left side, you see this other integration page pops up, where you can add the client IDs and app names, and you also need to copy this account IDs. So this information coming from this right side here, like a docs, developer.autodesk.com. Sorry, this I couldn't get rid of this internal budget, but this should be the same. You will see the application page, and you use this client IDs into here. So this way, when your application has this client ID and then access to your docs, then the docs will give you access to your applications. So this, yes. So with this, let's just look at how it looks in a real thing. So this is the docs page. I have this demo pages, and recently there has been some changes. In the past, there was an icon on the left, but now it's here, folders and issues, RFIs. And then also the previous versions, you had this admin access here, but now it moves to this 9 dots here. If you click on this 9 dots, you can see what you are subscribing. So for instance, in this case, document management, I don't have anything else, but you can also go to a project admin and an account admin. Project admin is admin for this project only, and then account admin is for the account. So if you click on this, it goes to account admin page here, and you can add a project, you can add the members, you can also, I think I signed in long time ago. So So probably this. Okay, so this is the. So this one, okay, so I have to go to account admin. Yeah, so this is the forge part on the development side. So I have this. And then the last setting, so this is the adding a companies and adding a members, adding companies, and then the same. And then there is some analytics here. And then the last one, the settings. This one gives you another layer of tabs. And then here, apps and integrations. This one is the one you can add integrations. So if you click on this add integration, you get this page, and next. I'm a developer or invite a developer. So if you are the owner of the hubs and you are developing yourself, or maybe you are a developer and using developer versions, then you will choose this. If you want to invite third parties who already have apps and you want them to connect, then you choose this one. So the difference is if I choose the developer, you can get into this page. While if you are inviting developer, the developer will get the email notification, and then once you click the link, it goes to this page. But when you are invited developer, you will not see this background information about this account. You only see this page. So this is the page I was showing earlier. You copy this, or actually you can. This is the same as this admin one, so you can copy from here too. But this is just to make sure you are aware what is account ID is, and you accept, and then you add a client ID and then app's name. So this will give you. I actually forgot to make a copy of this, but this will give you the access to the page. So I just go back and then, okay, so I just cancel. So, so this is the page. And sometimes when you have a customer, for instance, you may need to, or if you are contacting Autodesk, you may be asked to get the account ID. And there is a button here, view account ID. This is probably the nice way to ask your customers to give you the account ID, or if you are instructing your customer to contact Autodesk, this will be useful. Later on, I'll show you how to contact Autodesk about activating the apps and integrations, because right now this apps and integration tab doesn't show for every single owner of the hub. What's happening is that right now for the sales and marketing side of decisions, this tab is activated only for user who has more than 100 users. So if you don't have more than 100 users, or less than 100 users, or if you had accounts from long time, then you may still not see this, then you can actually request to get this activated. I will come back to that later. Okay. So now next big one is the data management API, and data management API is for document management, and it's a common across various Autodesk products such as S360, Fusion Lifecycle, and of course BIM 360 Docs and Teams, and then consumer products such as Tinkercad. And data management API has different service groups. So one which manages like a project services, accessing a project, multiple project, and then also accessing the data itself. So for instance, individual files. And then it also has object storage services. It's access to the storage itself. So, you know, overall, it's a data management. You can actually see in a URL or the REST API code you can use these services. And then object storage services, for instance, if you are not using BIM Autodesk product, you can use object services and this those kind of data management to create your custom storage as well. So for those who being already working on like so-called view and data API we are talking about in the past, those one uses the same object storage services. It's just that we, in case of docs, we are using storages that Autodesk is using. And data management API has follow the special strict format of JSON API. This one is defined by the JSON API org, and then it looks like this. So it usually have JSON API links and then data, and there are certain rules in here. So once it looks like you have more data than you need it, but once you used to it, you'll see how to take advantage of those commonly defined format. And then model derivative APIs, it's all about model data. You can do file translations, as I said, Revit, IFC, and then DWG, and etc. And you can also create the thumbnails and get the thumbnail. And geometry extraction, you can even create extract portion of the geometry. And then data extraction. This is about the metadata or properties in case of the Revit. And then again, this will be discussed in detail on Friday. So then, just quickly, even though I said that we'll have a detailed discussion later this week, let me just go through a quick demo so that you get the big picture idea a little more clearly. So I have this the tools which I've been kind of postponing to make it available, but I'm still using it for demo purposes. So this is not my kind of learning tool, and then also I found that it's kind of explaining nicely how this REST API is used in sequence. So I have like 2 legs and 3 legs, and in this case I just use a 3 leg. I already logged in a UI side, so it's picking up from UI 1, so it didn't ask you to log in, but it's authentication success. So first thing you usually do is you get to the project and you get to the hubs. So in this case, what you need is the get project v1 hubs call, and then parameter is all, this one is all optional, so I don't need it to run. So you see the return like this, but it's a little bit difficult to see, so I see it in tree view. So JSON format looks like this, starting with the JSON, and then JSON API. Just say the versions, and then links. This is for the self. So what I'm calling this one. This one is exactly the same call. What I called is this. Okay. So interesting thing is this one, data. So personally, I have 4 hubs. 3A360, and the last one is BIM 360. So this is the hub ID. So if you look at the more detail, you see hub names, and then extensions, and schema, links, and relationships. So things which are interesting is this one. So let's try to see number 2, for instance. This is a hub for my personal one. So what I want to point out is that number 2 is A. This is for A360 hub. As you can see, type hubs A dot blah blah blah, and then extension type is hubs.autodesk.core.hubs. This signal, this means it's a A360 hub. And if you look at the BIM ones, it has B dot. This is one way to signal. You are looking at the B360. And by the way, the B360 team will show the same as A360. As I was mentioning, team is branding. So underneath, it's still A360. So BIM 360, you see extension type, Hubs Autodesk.BIM 360 account. So this is the difference you can see. Hubs Autodesk and core hubs. This one is BIM 360. So if you get the list of hubs and you want to see which one is BIM 360, then this is the one you can actually make a distinction. So if you are interested in only BIM, then you can actually pick up these IDs. So once you get the hubs, next step is get the project. So hubs, project, hubs, and hub ID project. So now I need this hub ID as a parameter. So hub ID is here, and then this is a hub ID. So I just copy it here, and then copy the run. So again, in reality, you are not, doing one by hand, but this is just to explain as a learning process what's going on in the back end. And tomorrow, Augusto will probably show you like SDK to wrap up these the parameters and things like that. So again, if you use the project, I have 8 projects, and I think the second one is the ones, demo ones. So as you can see, among these 8 projects, I have this project B, this is B dot, and project name, and then in the extension, you will see the additional data. For instance, this one has the BIM 360 project. So extension type is the ones you can signal what kind of data you are looking. So you have this project ID. Once you have a project ID, what you want to see is top folders. Now, there's 2 types of folders, the get folders. One is top folders, and the other one is root folders. Please use the top folders because the root folder, not everybody has access. Top folder is the one top of the folder that user can have access. So it always guarantees that it lists the folders that the user have access. So top folders, you need a project ID. So this ID goes here. Then you run this. Then you should see the folder on the top. That means that I should have plan and then project files. And then first one is a plan. So this is the information about my first folder. So for the purpose of demoing, I will choose this plans. So now, so this one is the plan display name and then who created and blah, blah, blah. So you choose this folder ID, and the next step is to get the contents. So now we go to data service and then contents. So this one requires project ID, folder ID. So folder ID here. So now I should see the content of the folder. So now you see the content of folder has 19. I actually uploaded 2 Revit files, and it shows a lot of files. And then this one probably need an explanation. So go back to the docs. So if you go to the docs, this is the difference from A360 and then probably many other storage-based ones. If you are in a plan view, you see a document name and file name. If you see file names, you see very many same names like RAC basic sample project and blah blah blah. And then there's another one RST. This is structure. So this is a very famous Revit sample project. You probably recognize with this red roof sample. So this one is actually creating multiple documents. So A001 title sheet and site plans and blah blah blah. So if you are familiar with Revit, you recognize that Revit create a multiple view, plan view, elevation view, and even the tables for the quantity and things like that. So this one is all chopped into individual document, and it's shown here. So when you are using APIs, these will be listed in a mixed form. So for instance, in this case, you will see, I already know this because it has so many. So this one, 14, is actually this file. So if you see files extension type file, item Autodesk BIM 360 file, and this is a rack basic sample project. So this one is looking at this. Sometimes we call it like seed file, like seed, flower seed. And then if you look at the one above 13, this should be a document. So attribute extension, you see here document. So this is a difference. So document, and in this case, it's display name is a little missing. This one will be filled out soon, but there is another way to find the information. So this one is actually showing this individual document. So you see the documentation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, blah, 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 and then 13 will be, 14 in the list is this one. So the missing information is actually, if you look at the relationship, which other relationship? Included, sorry. Included and 13, you see attribute name here. Okay. So this is the part you can add. So now going back to 14, and then let's see what you have with included one. So relationship has actually plenty of information here. So relationship with this file has like item links, and then download format and derivative thumbnail storage. So this is the ones you'll probably make use of when you're accessing data. So storage means that if you want to download them, you can use this link to download the file. You don't need to compose yourself. You can actually take this link as a href and then use it when you call a REST API. And same here, the thumbnail as well. You can actually use these links to access thumbnails. And derivative. So derivative is the ones, it's funny name, but it's actually the very powerful information. So derivative is, in a viewer, we call it URN here. This is the one you can use to view. So let's say I want to use this model, and I use this token I have already, and then if you use a view, and that's the only information you need to view. So if you access to the data, you go through project folder, items, and then go to this included, and then derivatives and ID. This is the ones you connect to the viewers. So that's about the data management APIs. And now let's quickly look at the model derivative API as well. And again, detail will follow on Friday. This will be just to give you the idea what it means. So data, metadata. So data management, model derivative API is about accessing a specific data. So you need this URN to access a model. And first thing is you need to get this the grid. So in order to do that, you need a metadata code. So grid is here, just here. So you need this ID, in order to get the properties, for instance. So let's try to get the property here, which and run. It takes a little time because it has a little information going traveling on the internet. Okay, so this is the output all in data, and what it has is that there is 624 data here, and then each of them is like element, object ID, and things like that. So so what it means is this one is corresponding. So for instance, these properties, this data is the ones we just got it through this API. So I always use this red roof because it's easy. So for instance, if we want to use this roof, then what you have to do is you have to search this 4. So it's 101. So let me just look at so 101 is here. So this should be the information we are seeing. So let's compare with this. So in this case, we have a roof with a constraint, construction, and dimension. And to make it easy, let's see, like we have dimension, thickness, and volume 35, and things like that. So we should have this data in this code. So dimension and thickness and volume, it's actually rounded, but the volume is here. So as you can see, using this model derivative APIs, you can get the information, metadata information from here. So when you are seeing in this form, this side, this information you can actually get from the other one, this GUIDs. This will give you the property, the access to this left side ones. Okay, so that's basically the one. Okay, one thing I wanted to do is, so this, let me just close this. So for instance, now we know this one is basic roof, and this is object ID. So this object ID is the one you use to interact with the model in the viewer. So I copy this 2210, 2210, and then let's say as an example, if we use a viewer API to focus, then you can actually zoom into this. So this is about this the IDs. You get object IDs or node IDs. So I hope that this kind of gives you a big picture of what each code does. Okay, so then going back to PowerPoint. So I already explained some detail, the differences while I was talking, but this is kind of summarizes the difference between Docs API and then other ones. So basic workflow is more or less identical, but there are certain changes. And some differences are intentional. Some differences are kind of still on the way to have everything exposed. So a few differences we know. Docs support 2 legs and 3 legs, while other ones support only 3 legs. And Hub is equivalent of accounts in BIM 360. There are different product team uses different names like a tenant and other things, but Hub is account. This is one of the questions I sometimes get and didn't recognize there was a difference. And then docs requires additional steps for activating API. So this is one of the probably the hardest hurdle, even beyond technical ones, because if you don't know, you may not be able to access. So I'll come back to this in the next couple of slides, but be aware. And then look for the use of extension type, such as BIM 360, blah, 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 instead of Autodesk Core. So certain things you have to tweak. So the documentation, there is an overview documentation describing this, but I'm experiencing that many people read the documentation in detail. So this is something people usually learn while finding out it's not working. But this is the main difference. Okay. And then uploading file also, it's you the same step 5, but there are certain steps you need to change. A certain part you need to change. For instance, like a BIM 360 instead of Core. So. And these are a little bit more details, and you'll find the information in the blog and things like that. And then folder creation, this one was just released, and right now it's kind of intermediate, so we are using command instead of post folder endpoint. And so it will be, or I think we may have a posting, but I'm supposed to be posting about this one very soon. So this is folder creation is possible as of today. And before we implement to the post folder endpoint, it's right now it's still only available as a 3 legs or user context in 2 legs. So just to be aware that it's still kind of in process of completing everything. So next big thing, especially before you are touching coding, if you don't see apps and integration tab, what can you do? So send us a request to this email, BIM360 apps activation at autodesk.com. So right now, intentionally, the marketing team made it not accessible for the small account owners, but it shouldn't be. So if you request this, that will make activated. So feel free to contact us. And the information we need is BIM 360 account ID, name, and admin's email. And as I was demoing, you can get the account ID from the account admin page, settings tab, view account ID link. So before even starting, if you are watching this webcast with no Docker accounts and you would like to start developing, you're welcome. So first thing is that the ADN members should have access to developer environment. And so please go to the adn.autodesk.io and development software web services request form. This will give you access, full access. And if you are already a paid account owner, and you should have, of course, access. But if you don't see the apps and integration tab, please contact the email I just showed earlier. And if you don't fall into either categories, but still would like to do, then 2 choices. One is join the ADN. And if you are, especially the startups, there is an option to get the wave for, at the beginning. So this might be a good one because eventually many BIM users will use Autodesk product as well. So this might be a good one. And another choice will be a contact. This email, BIM360 hackathon@autodesk.com, will make a temporary account for you. So feel free to contact. And learn more. So we have developer.autodesk.com. That's the starting point, which even have a link to the next link, Autodesk /Autodesk the -forge.github.io. From there, you will see plenty of code samples. And I do have my own personal ones, but I have to fill out more. But there are certain information which is still useful, so I'm still adding fieldofviewblog.wordpress.com forge. Or if you search my name with BIM 360 API, you can probably hit this site now. And so this is just an example. The ones I showed is the basic. It's the ABC of APIs, but you have plenty of examples just like this one. So, and learning path. So next one, tomorrow, Augusto will be talking about authentication and data management API. And Friday, I think Adam will be talking about model derivative APIs. And next week, we'll be talking about viewer. Jaime and Michael will be talking about the viewer. And then next week, Wednesday, I'll come back with account level APIs. And then the last day, how to submit the BIM 360 apps to Autodesk app stores. This will be covered by Augusto, I believe. So, and once again, if you have further inquiry which we didn't cover today or we are not covering throughout this this week and next week, feel free to contact BIM 360 Hackathon at autodesk.com. And then once again, Tom is watching this, and Tom, for business side, if you are interested in discussing a business side opportunities, Tom Crotter. And also if you have any request for APIs and futuristic request, Tomel Garon will be the person to go. And then also the API today will be me, and I will usually ask my team to ask difficult questions. So yes, I will be happy to be entrance to the APIs, API inquiries as of today. Okay, so today I talked about BIM 360 and family product and API, and gave an overview of Forge and relationship to BIM. With that, almost exactly 1 hour. So any questions?
Macaco, Jim Quancy here.
Ah, Jim!
Love your presentation.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, very clear. I learned a lot. I do see a question from Mustafa. Again, I think he's the guy I talked to in Dubai, who asked about the test harness. Where is that from? How does he get that?
Yes, it's on my to-do list. I have to publish it.
So you'll be publishing it on GitHub or on the Field of View blog?
Yeah, Field of View blog and then GitHub.
And GitHub, both. Okay, great.
Yeah, yeah. This one is it was meant to my own learning, but I found it actually explains very nicely, so I decided. But I was a little bit embarrassed to give as is, so give me a little time. This will be a good reason to clean up.
So is a little time a few days or a week or two?
Maybe a week, if you don't mind. Mustafa, if you give me an email, I'll give you the dirty version today. And let's give me 1 week, because as you know, I need a chunk of time to clean up. So.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I love the test harness. It sure helped me understand more.
Okay. So anybody, any questions? So I see a question like this test team will be separate. Right now, BIM 360 team is separate, but you can use more or less the same APIs. And in future, we'll have every family together in peace. And hello from Chile. Thank you. Is there any way to add grid element? Not today. So if you have any specific request, the Tomer will be the person who would love to hear what you want.
Yeah, and I'll impress on people. Tomer Gallen, who's the product manager for the API, absolutely has your ability to add UI inside the BIM 360 experience on the API list. But that is a big general request. So he loves to talk to people on exactly what do you want to be able to do. You know, is being inside an iframe in a page good enough, or you want to add tabs or sections, or exactly what do you want? Let Tomer, engage with Tomer in that discussion.
Yes. In that respect, I'm always talking with product team that we do have a very good internal customer, such as Guru team is itself, field team itself. So internal customer needs tabs or, you know, the additional grid, the gadget. I always tell them, like, you know, that's the one third party also wants. So yeah, please let the Toma knows what specific ones you want. And then I need your help to push them, actually. Right, Jim?
Yes, the more partners that ask for the same thing, the higher it becomes up on the list. So you know, we'll get some things by Autodesk University. I hope we're going to see some UI things by the end of the year. But again, it won't be like, here's all your UI capability at once. That's going to take, it's going to come out in bits and pieces over several months to help us prioritize.
Yes, you know, even though we wish to have everything, but the reality is we had to prioritize wisely. Any other questions? No? Okay, so then is it okay to finish this as a call it at the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think just we received another question.
Ah,
How about
yeah.
code samples for App Store?
Code sample for App Store. Maybe yes, there is a code sample. Augusto, are you there?
Yes, hi. So we're going to present. I'm going to present some samples on data management tomorrow. Adam will show some other samples on mod derivative, but on the last presentation, I was planning to demonstrate how to integrate your app with the App Store engine, meaning payment system, for instance. But that's planned for the last one. So if you have a specific question, what do you need on the App Store? I can maybe address that better.
Yeah, Augusto, I think it's about if someone has looked at the App Store, there's 7 apps there right now, and they want the code sample for that app. Do they go to GitHub? Is it in the help file? How do they find out where to get it?
Yes, so on the apps that are available on the App Store right now, on the top right, there is an About button. And on that button, you can see the link to the source code. It's basically on GitHub/Autodesk-Forge. So you can look at there as well. But on the app, top right, About and source code.
Perfecto.
And another question is how to create a folder URL again.
Yeah, this one probably need this explanation, so I had to do it today, tomorrow. Yeah, this one is not enough because it's not, I think the documentation is not published yet, or I didn't check. So it's hot from the oven. So the documentation should come out soon. But I was also hoping to the blog about it, but I was a little slow, and also wanted to clarify what is possible, what is not. Okay. And then sorry, Augusto, thank you very much for the answer.
Yeah. Just one more on the create folder URL. I will post on the questions a link to a code that demonstrates how to create that via API, in this case using Node.js. I'll post a code, a sample. A link
Yeah,
for code.
August sample definitely has it, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yes, recording will be available. And PowerPoint too.
So for the recording and the PowerPoint, typically takes 2 or 3 days to get those up on YouTube shortly.
Okay, so then, thank you very much. Thank you, Biru. Thank you,